Okay, dear friends, welcome to a new episode of the Interrupter podcast. Today, with a very special guest, the one and only Kathryn Temple. Allow me to introduce you, Kathryn. She is an NLP master and trainer, an executive coach, an MSc business psychologist. She's also the CEO of the Lifelong Learning Company. She founded the World Change Agents, the Happiness Magazine, the Happiness Foundation. As if this is not enough, she was appointed by the Secretary of State for Education to the Special Educational Needs and Disability Tribunal as one of the first 69 specialist members for England and Wales. She is a true powerhouse. She can come from any angle, whether it's scientific or spiritual. It's really impressive. I'm looking forward to this one. Thank you so much for coming, Kath.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be your guest. Thank you.
And today, yeah, we would like to discuss the big one, Kathryn. No happiness, genuine happiness. We try to go as deep as we can, I think, no? And please feel free whenever you prefer also to deviate a bit. Please go ahead, Kathryn. I planned this podcast as a bit more, free discussion because as it's known, you are really able to explain many, many topics. So, yeah, I can't wait what we can learn from you today.
Oh, bless your heart.
Thanks.
Happiness. It's an amazing subject, happiness, isn't it? The ancient Egyptians believed on the gateway to heaven, you are asked two questions. Just two. And the first question they say we're asked on the gateway to heaven is, have you found the joy in your life? Have you found the joy in your life? And the second question they say we're asked on the gateway to heaven is, has your life brought joy to others? But one of the things that I discovered on my life journey is that if you find your own joy, your very presence, your beingness brings joy to others. Never mind your doingness. It's more to do with your beingness. Your beingness is your frequency, is your vibrational energy. And we can lift people's vibrational energy with the way we're being, not just about what we're doing. And yet much of life is caught up with what we do, not who we're being as we're doing things. So your presence matters. In my book, I've talked about some people are an absence in the world. They're too busy in their own back offices, back in the back of their heads, pontificating things, and they lose their presence in the world. But when we find our joy, we are a bigger presence in the world, and our life then brings joy to others as well.
All right. So, yeah, what you said right at the beginning, Kathryn. So, there is a connection between our own inner happiness, let's say, and the happiness of others, right? It's not a good idea to separate these two. And, this also, of course, brings us to oneness, which was discussed before. And yeah, you know what, Kathryn? There's this tale, I'm sure you know it. This man came to a monk, and the monk says, what can I do for you? And the man says, I want happiness. And the monk says, drop the I, that's the ego, then you drop the want, that's your desire, and then what you're left with is happiness. No.
There's much in that, isn't there? That we can spend a lot of our lives going looking for happiness, but actually it finds you in the quiet moments. Happiness is, lots of people get mixed up with pleasure, that they do things for pleasure. But pleasure and happiness are very different things. Happiness is about love. Happiness is also about walking love into the world. Happiness is about living on purpose, doing that thing for which you were born, that thing which brings you innate joy, which brings big energy into your system, conjoins you with the oneness. That is happiness.
I think that's a very, very important point right at the beginning, right? Because in our society, many people confuse the two. No, they think like pleasure or desires that represents the happiness, while actual, true, genuine inner happiness, no, which for me personally, Kathryn, always is connected to spirituality in some way. You can't really separate the two, right? So that's a big, big difference. No, yet our society we live in often tells us, no, like you need the material things for your happiness. You need to chase things for your happiness. One of the big issues, no, rather than going inside, no?
Jamal, I did a lovely piece of work with a young man today. I really enjoy what I do, and my mission as I teach change people's lives and to help others to change people's lives as well. But one of the things I had him do was I said to him that there's more than Doctor Who can time travel, you know. There's more than Doctor Who can time travel. And I had him in his mind to travel forward in time to the very last day of his one wild and precious life, the very last day of his one wild and precious life, and to have a feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction inside of his gut as he faced into a light containing all things bliss, freedom, peace, and great love. But before he steps into the light, to take a look back at his life and to notice what's the only thing that you can take with you in the light. It certainly isn't the things that maybe we've chased in our lives. It's certainly not things, it's not even people that we take with us into the light. It's something else. And I'll let your listeners, your viewers, think about what it is that they can take into the light. So what is life all about then? What is life all about? And we're certainly not meant to just find happiness alone. We're certainly meant to be in connection and in community and in love in its wider sense with our world, and to make our gifts, skills and talents count in a way that's aligned with our mission, our vision, that's aligned with who we are, that's aligned with our values, so that we walk our values as daily guides, as a moral compass for our behaviours upon this planet, and that there's a greater alignment unfolds in the unfoldment of life as we stay in connection with the who of who we are, doing what we were born to do, for sure.
Right, and that brings us to a big topic straight away, no? And that I think is very important what you said just at the beginning. So, and I fully agree. I would personally even go further, Kathryn. I would say happiness as such is not even maybe the purpose, because you can misunderstand that. No, you can think, oh, so if I'm okay or my family is okay, then everything is great and nothing else matters. That's dangerous. No, then you could misunderstand that, you know, it's your egoism or people in your inner circle. That's not what we mean. No, we talk about like something which goes much, much further. No, also love to the universe, like you already described. No, so that's maybe the first takeaway. And yeah, it's a good idea that everybody really thinks about that. No, I would put it this way, Kathryn. I would love to hear your opinion. The universe wants you to be happy. You are allowed to be happy, but there is more to life as well. No, the Hindus, for example, would say, look, there's also your dharma, right? Your mission. And in some cases, Kathryn, I would love to hear your opinion. Fulfilling this mission you may have may entail some very dark periods and a lot of discomfort. But at the same time, of course, you're always allowed, and you even have a right to be happy in that path. What would you say about that?
I think that sometimes religions can be about suffering.
Right.
So I feel as if I'm less religious and more spiritual these days. And religions can be quite divisive. But I was raised a Catholic. I was raised Roman Catholic. And the Roman Catholic faith is a lot about suffering and martyrdom. And really, I don't think it has to be like that. That's not to say that there isn't suffering in life. Show me a human being over about the age of 10 and they will have known pain. They will have known pain. But do they let the pain in those difficult, dark times define them? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. They might refine us. They might expand our spirit, because as every dark period or every dark time comes in, it gives us an opportunity to expand our soul, our spirit, and to be more of our moreness. But some people go into less of their lessness and contract down. But we always have those choice points of, so what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? Are you going to give up that mission? Are you going to give up that vision? Or are you going to keep on keeping on? The Chinese have a proverb, get knocked down 7, get up 8. Get 8 and keep going. And for me, I've had dark times in my life. We had difficult days. You know, we nursed. I've known, because I'm from a big family, we've known a lot of deaths.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, known many, many deaths, and much harder it is to bear the death of a young person than the death of an older person, however much you love the older person. There's something right in the order of the universe when our older people die, God bless them. But when a young person dies, that can sideswipe you, and that's more difficult. But even from those difficult times in my life, and I'm sure for many of your viewers and listeners here today, I've expanded from those difficult times, and something has grown in the world because I've been through those difficult times. So although we call it the Happiness Foundation, which is my charity in Gibraltar, it's a non-profit in the United Kingdom, the Happiness Foundation came from unhappiness, not happiness. The Happiness Foundation came about because I lost my younger brother, John Black, a wonderful man who died at the age of 42. He was the community relations manager for UMIST. A wonderful person. Had he not died, the Happiness Foundation in the United Kingdom wouldn't have been formed in 2007. It became a fully fledged non-profit in 2009. And there's a little more to that story as well, because I think it was about 2017, maybe 2018, and I was giving a talk in Gibraltar, and I was giving a talk at Inces Hall. I had a lot of people came to have a listen to my talk actually about kindness, of kindness is love made visible in the world. Kindness is love with its work boots on. And we talked about the young people being kindness warriors, and I got them to swear an allegiance to themselves to be kindness warriors, to be world change agents. And two young women behind, they stood for ages as other people were talking to me after the talk, and they stood for ages and ages and ages, and I kept looking at them to let them know I had seen them, and I'd come to them. It was just that there was other people to talk to, and they stayed to the very, very end. And when I talked to them, there were two sisters, the Montegrifo sisters from Gibraltar. One is called Natalie Abudaram and the other is Emma Montegrifo. And both of them are teachers in Gibraltar schools. And Natalie told me that in the January, this was in June of that year, in the January of that year, she had lost her beautiful husband, Marcus, who was only in his 30s. And she was left with two beautiful children, Faye and Jules. And that she was off work. She was still off work, but doing really well. She was an inspiring woman. And she said, will you set up the Happiness Fund? Will you do something to help children with grief? Because there's nothing in Gibraltar that helps children with grief.
Wow, so that means, Kathryn, that out of those events, you actually started the whole happiness movement, is it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Because of Natalie Abudaram, because she said there was nothing in Gibraltar for children struggling with grief. Would I do something? And I said, I will if you'll help me. And she said that she would, and Emma said that she would as well. And so we started to get the ball rolling with the Happiness Foundation. And although we've been doing work longer than this, it actually officially launched in October of last year, October 2019. And the Governor of Gibraltar, now the ex-Governor of Gibraltar, lovely man called Ed Davis, became our patron. And onwards we went from there. But it was based on, and we dedicated, if you look at the website, which is www.thehappinessfoundation.com, you'll see that website is dedicated to Marcus, who died in his 30s. But let me share something else with you, our lovely Jamal. My beautiful son-in-law, Ed's sister, who created that website for us. He did the website. And our Ed died this year in July. I never thought that I would lose a son-in-law who felt very much like a son to me, a beautiful young man. He died actually here in this room. He died in my home. He lived with me along with my daughter Lucy and their son, little Ari, who was 2 at the time. Those are difficult, dark days. So not only will that website be dedicated to Marcus, which it is, it's also dedicated to the memory, permission to talk about him. Beautiful stillborn boy called Luke Banbury, that Ed put those dedications on for me. But Ed's picture, sadly, is the double of Marcus, is the astonishing thing, is the double of Marcus. Yeah. And so both of them will be on that site because he was part of the whole inception of the Happiness Foundation, our lovely Ed. And of course, Marcus inspired it along with his beautiful widow, Natalie, and their gorgeous children, Faye and Jules. So from difficult times, sometimes we can be strengthened in the fire, but we can get sideswiped with it as well. And I recognize as well that we have an opportunity to dwell in unhappiness. But that serves nobody, because if a mom is unhappy, maybe a mummy with a baby, and this isn't to make anybody feel bad, that's not my purpose at all here, but our unhappiness spills out and affects other people. And so we can take down people's vibrational energy, take down their frequency, just as our own is down. And as we lift ourselves up, so we can lift other people's frequency, our heart's coherence grows, but we can affect the heart coherence of those people around us, or the incoherent rhythms of someone else's heart. So in a way, I said that in a way, happiness serves humanity, because when we are happier, we are not in our own way, and we're not in the back office of our minds. We're very much front of house, gazing out at others and to see how we can be of service in the world, because we're not preoccupied with ourselves. So I can see that happiness serves humanity, it serves society, it serves a community, it serves a family, and it certainly serves the individual, but not in a pursuit of happiness kind of a way, that we just owe it to ourselves and to the world to be in our best energy as best we can, recognizing that there will be times we go right down that frequency scale, and that's normal because it's called being human. But how long do we want to stay down, and where do we want to be for the rest of our lives?
Wow. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for giving us this background information. That's really helpful. And maybe let's cover that topic, because it was on my list, Kathryn, because we can't ignore death, right? And allow me to express how I personally feel about it, right? And I think we talked about it before. Personally, Kathryn, in my own spiritual development, a big step was losing the fear of death. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to die. I love life, right? And it's not that, I'm okay with just going. But for me personally, I realized, Kathryn, that first of all, when we all die, and it will happen one day, yeah, our bodies deteriorate, our physical bodies will be gone, our egos will be gone. But for me personally, it's a reality that your soul, just goes back to the Akashic records, or whatever you want to call it, to the collective consciousness, and it comes back in another form. For me, Kathryn, that's a reality, and it goes on and on and on. And look, like you, I don't come from any religious or dogmatic perspective, but, I like also to take ideas from other traditions. And I would think that there's something like karma, Kathryn, for the lack of a better word, that the universe wants you to have a lesson and to improve over several lives. Like for me personally, and like you, Kathryn, my dad is Iranian, my mom is German, but I grew up in Germany, so there were mostly Christian schools. And I always liked, the lessons and all that. But like you, I always had a bit of a problem with the aspect of suffering, right? That when you go to the traditional Christianity, the idea is you suffer on this earth to later either go to heaven or hell, right? So that didn't really resonate with me neither. That's also why I, for the lack of a better word, say, spirituality is what I believe in. I know language has its limitations. But to be honest, Kathryn, and I would also love to hear your view on this, I really have made my peace with death. Because let's be honest, Kathryn, I think you can't be truly happy in 3D, living in 3D, because look, we deteriorate, Kathryn, we get older, our bodies deteriorate, our material possessions deteriorate, a few thousand years in the future, they just become dust, right? So I think it's very important also for the viewers, there's more, higher what you can see with your eyes, isn't it?
I think that my views are very similar to yours, Jamal. They're very similar to yours, indeed. And I think we write our own contracts to come in. We choose to incarnate, and we choose the souls with whom we incarnate, which makes every step along our life journey holy ground. Every step is holy ground, and where we are, we're meant to be. And we might be of service to this person at a bus stop, or that person on a train, or that person on a walk, or climb up a mountain, that wherever we are is where we're meant to be there now. Or Ramdas talked about we're meant to be here now, but wherever the here is in this now moment is exactly where we're meant to be. And we can bring meaning and purpose into each given moment in our lives as well. In each given moment, there's a meaning and purpose to things. And if I can just add an extra dimension.
Yeah.
the Christian principles, I think the church is separate to who Jesus was. Sure, I think he was a remarkable enlightened being, a remarkable enlightened being whose life message was love, whose life message was peace, whose life message was making something of the life and walking love and peace into a world and embodying that. And somehow the church corrupted that.
Yeah.
And the icons in a building commemorated to God be the suffering Christ. And I kind of wanted to say, just a minute, we've got this wrong. This Jesus Christ lived on earth for 33 years. And every day of his life was not suffering. But the day of his death was a suffering day for sure. But to only honour the point of someone's death is to dishonour the life of that person. And that for me, the Catholic Church was very preoccupied with the death of Christ. And I was more preoccupied with his life and his teachings and his messages. And for me, that Christos energy, the Christ energy, is a very living, present thing in me, with me, and so on. The teachings of Buddha, another enlightened being. The difference were the miracles and the incredible gifts that Jesus had. But there are many, many figures in many, many of the religions that are inspiring, that can lift our spirits and move us over and beyond things. You talk too about karma. I also think that we can be calmer about karma as well. And that as best we can, whatever issues come up for us in this life, whatever shadows we feel that sometimes there are shadow sides to us, to embrace those shadow sides. There's much strength in the shadow side, actually. There's much strength in it. And to listen to its messages, to let go of any demons within it, any dark sides within it, but to feel the feelings that sometimes come up for us and process them and work through them in order to digest the message from them. I remember seeing a psychic medium from Cumbria, which is where I come from the Lake District. And his wife was a very interesting woman. I only offer this as a story. And it was a story that made me think. And she said, very similar to what we've said about, we contract into this life and we contract in with a number of souls who'll play certain roles for us to allow us to experience things. Earth is the feeling planet. Earth is the feeling planet. In we come in our 3D. And there's a tiny fragment. So this is my take on this. There's a tiny fragment of our spirit selves in this system. A tiny fragment. And most of us is up and out. The big I am presence is up and out of us, but there's a bit of it in. The better we feel, which is back to happiness again in a way, the better we feel about ourselves, the more of our spiritual energy is in the system. The brighter we shine. You can see the energy of somebody through their eyes, can you not? Okay, I hope that mine's coming across today.
It does, Kathryn.
And the worse we feel about ourselves, almost the less of our spiritual selves is in the system. Almost like we're pinching off some of the energy that is possible to come down. And I make people, because I talk about, I used to love Elvis. And go and see him and he died, how very dare he, before I go. I was sure he would marry me as well.
For sure. Wow, Kathryn, what you said about Jesus, that was beautiful. And that's a really, really great thought. And I love that, how you put it, right? That, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, this man, to this day, Kathryn, is still a role model to us. He was all about love. It was about compassion. No, he had his ego in control. And it's not fair towards him to depict only the suffering. I fully agree. You know, it's like as if there's an obsession with his suffering. I mean, look, I don't want to take anything away from his suffering because, you know, he did it for us all. But I fully agree. You know, he was certainly, I mean, we don't know, but he was certainly a multidimensional person, you know, who had all kinds of different aspects. And to reduce that person to just that one aspect, it's not really fair, is it?
Not fair at all. Not fair at all. But that thing with the spirit, I always say that there's at the end of the albums with Elvis or Jamal, they would say, Elvis has left the building. Thank you. And I think sometimes when we're feeling really bad about ourselves or some situation, it's like, not Elvis, but spirit has left the building. Thank you. When we're off and on and so on, Elvis is in the building. Or spirit is in our building, is in our temple, is in our home, is in our queendom, is in our kingdom.
Nice. And Kathryn, allow me to interrupt you because you already said two really interesting things. So the second thing you said is that suffering, for example, is a part of life. And I recently learned that also, Kathryn. And I think that's also very important, right? That a rich life doesn't mean that you're always happy every day and you're running around with a big smile all day, right? If you can do it, great. But a rich life also entails those other events, no death of a loved ones and so on. Recently, my uncle died as well. But this time, Kathryn, I could cope with it a bit better because before that, I had all those realizations, which we discussed. And like you said as well, you can let out your emotions and let it flow through you and, don't fight it, don't oppress it. Also, specifically when you're a man, you're allowed to cry, like that's another thing we can discuss. The feminine, the masculine, like we have to redefine that also in our society, like in those moments, let your emotions go out, flush out, purify yourself, right? And then afterwards you get back on track and you again find the positivity and the appreciation for life. We talk about it. It sounds easy. It can be difficult, Kathryn, no?
I think, and remember as well, it's mostly us women who raise the men. We raise our boys. But do we raise them differently? Do we allow more free emotional expression in our girls than our boys? And if so, then us women need to change that. And I'll tell you for why. Men die younger than women. Why is that? Is it because they internalize their emotions and they don't show them? That it doesn't feel as if it's a masculine thing to do. But each of us has masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang. And so we need to be our whole selves, not just a part self. And to deny our feelings is really not good for us at all. And so if I share an experiment with you that really, really resonated with me, and the experiment was that psychologists subjected men and women to the same difficult movie, to the same upsetting movie. And as the cameras were on the women were their faces were full of expression and crying. And the man sat there like Confucius, no emotions. However, the psychologists had them wired up for galvanic skin responses. They did cortisol, they did base level cortisol tests before and after. The men were much, significantly more stressed than the women, but you wouldn't have known that to look at them. The man's stress levels were much, much higher. In another experiment that I remember as well from my psychology learnings, they got couples together and they said, what do you always argue about? So they all shared what they argued about and they got them to argue. And again, base level tests before and tests afterwards and galvanic skin responses and so on set up. The men whose faces did not show emotion were much more stressed than the women. So domestic arguments bother men a lot more than actually women. But because the woman was not getting the response from the face, there's little feedback from the man's face, she provoked him more, which made him much more upset, but his face was still not displaying the emotion. So the animation of our faces and the overspill through the eyes releases emotion, where the man is internalizing it. And we also have to look in our family cultures, in our subcultures as well, of which emotions are okay in a family to show. I remember working with a lovely mom, and unusually she brought a child. And you're thinking, I'm here, you've come here for therapy, but we have a little tiny one, maybe about 2 years old, a little girl. And but I have grandchildren, so I have toys in the house. And toys down for the little girl. And the little girl kept going to our mum, and why not? Although I'm warm and welcoming and loving, it was a strange house. And she's never met me before in her life. And the mum kept pushing the little one away so that she could do the work with me. And the little one, the more the mum pushed her away, the more the little one came forward. And I said, all she needs, just take her in your arms, snuggle her in, give her a little reassurance. The toys are right there. And just give her the reassurance and watch her. She'll get bored as soon as she feels reassured and safe, and she'll go and play with those toys. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And the mum was there because her partner, her husband, had left her. And she was obviously very, very upset about it. And I was trying to help her with her sleep and with her emotions and so on. And she said, I hate him. And I said, shall we call it what it is? Because actually that's love. Hate and love are not that far away.
That's very true.
The opposite of love is disinterest, apathy.
Right.
So let's call it, and as soon as I said, let's call it what it is, it's still love. And she cried and she said, oh, I don't want her to see my tears. And I said, but it's okay for her to see your anger. Is it okay to see anger? That's what you're showing her. Nobody died from crying.
Yeah.
It's important that our children, at times, when things like that happen, it's okay for them to see us cry and see us recover again, so that they know that when they cry, it's not the end of the world and they will recover again. So that's about emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, and also being unafraid to show some emotions to our children, to say, this is really hard and we will get through it, but it's hard right now. It is interesting to say which, in different families, certain emotions are allowed to be expressed. And in lots of the young, I've worked with a lot of troubled young boys and men in pupil units where they've been excluded from school. I love them to pieces. And I can be an enormous service to them and help them to better manage their own emotions and to clear childhood traumas, which are often there.
Right. Allow me to interrupt you, Kathryn. So, I would like just to make two comments, and you will come to this topic now as well. The one thing you said earlier, I think for a relationship or in a family setting, in order to bond with someone, Kathryn, you need to express your emotions in some way, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, take the risk of being vulnerable, and do it. There's no argument against it. For me, Kathryn, if you want to be a strong man, that means that you're able to do that. And also you're able to say, for example, I love you. Many men, Kathryn, as you know better than me, have a problem of saying I love you. Now, let me tell you to our male viewers, if you're not able to say I love you, that's your blockage. That's your problem. A strong man is able to express those emotions, and that also allows you to really bond with others, to have deep relationships, to say how you feel. Now, don't get me wrong, Kathryn, I also agree that at times as a man, if you follow, let's say, a warrior archetypes, at times you need to be strong, right? I mean, that's absolutely fine. You can also give into your masculine side, and there are moments in life where you need to be the man, right? And you need to have balls, let's say, excuse my French. Yeah. That's as fine. But, I think nowadays, Kathryn, with all that knowledge we have, with our collective consciousness increasing, ask yourself, where are my blockages? And maybe you can also give us more knowledge, Kathryn, because you have so much experience. You have worked with so many people over the years. I mean, you've seen it all, Kathryn. You've seen the most extreme cases, right? You've seen the whole range. So what's your advice, Kathryn, maybe to finish that part of the discussion? So when it comes to males, but also females, how can we open up, have deeper connections, share our love, and how can we overcome these weird blockages which are there, Kathryn?
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Jamal, that it is a sign of strength to also show vulnerability. There is no human being upon this planet who is invulnerable. We are all fragile beings as well. And people know us only to the extent that we allow ourselves to be known. Often when we feel safe, if you like, a little bit like a computer, we're talking here via the internet. So I'm looking at a computer screen and your lovely face upon it. And we don't feel safe with someone, we put our firewalls up, just as the computer puts it. And as we feel safe, we let ourselves be seen. And so for each of us to be a safe place for another person, another human, for each of us to be a soft place where another human can fall and rise again is really important. And to look at what would stop you from sharing your authentic self. And your authentic self will have its strong and it's soft. its strengths and its weaknesses. But how does anybody know anyone if they don't allow themselves to be seen? And I always love the Ubuntu philosophy of in the West, where we shake hands and look in the eye and shake the hand, good strong handshake. But the Ubuntu take two hands and they look deep in the eye. And they look for the soul behind the eyes. And when one feels ready, they say, I'm here to be seen.
Wow.
When the other sees them, they say, and I see you. And then the other person says, I'm here to be seen. And when the person sees the soul behind the eyes, they say, and I see you. But how about if each day, along our way, along the sacred ground upon which we stand each day, that we looked for the soul behind the eyes? Because when I do that, and I'm sure when you've done that, I know you're a very spiritual man, people let their firewalls down because they know that you're looking for them and they feel seen and they feel known, they feel felt, and we feel gotten. But we also have to allow ourselves to be gotten, to let people into our hearts. And there are times that you'll want to feel invulnerable. I'll tell you a story. When I was about 18 and at university, and I went to university in Newcastle, and I was with my very good friend Sharon Brown, love her to pieces, and we were in a little gang in the Students' Union this particular morning. And he was a lovely lad called Vic, said something to Sharon. I can't even remember what it was, but it made me wince, like it was so hurtful. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, how would I manage that? And probably at 18, not wishing to appear vulnerable, here we are, back to that, not wishing to appear vulnerable, I would have laughed, ha, 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 to show that it hadn't bothered me. But it would have greatly bothered me and hurt my heart. But my friend Sharon taught me a marvellous lesson that day, because Sharon didn't attack Vic, didn't tell him off. She just said, in all of her authentic glory, she went, I'm going to use a Geordie accent. This is a Geordie accent. And she went, Vic. And she said, I feel really hurt. Said that. And I thought, what a revelation. What a simple statement. She didn't give any you statements. She said, I feel really hurt that you said that. And he owned it. He couldn't apologise enough. And for the rest of our time at university, he was soft, compassionate and kind. And my laughter that day, if it had been sent to me, and I would have laughed to pretend it wasn't bothering me, but it would have bothered me, wouldn't have taught him anything. It wouldn't have taught him anything. So when we lay claim also to our feelings, we give another person a chance to grow. So that thing which you're saying, which is to be authentic, and also to give compliments genuinely from your heart. Yes. And to say, I love you, I love the bones of you, is a beautiful thing to be able to say with genuineness to someone.
Absolutely. That's another topic. I believe we all could give more compliments, Kathryn. Why has it become so lost? People always think, oh, you have some agenda or you want to gain cookie points. No, please give the compliment. It doesn't cost you anything. The funny thing is, Kathryn, for example, in Persian culture, when I look at, the country that is from, Iran, it's the other extreme. People make a lot of compliments. It's part of the culture. They go overboard with the compliments, which is really funny. But I think in the West, we have to really, move a bit more to that direction because, come on, we are really, really stingy when it comes to compliments. Why, Kathryn? Because people think, oh, that one must have an agenda. There's some objective. There's the strategy behind it. That's sometimes which is really so sad, Kathryn, that we always think in terms of, there's a strategy, there's an incentive, and we lose that, genuine expression of love. And it's important, isn't it, Kathryn? I mean, that's what makes a culture in the end as well,
I also think as well, Jamal, we can spot bullshit at 50 paces, can't we? So, somebody's not being genuine, and we know when someone is. So again, look for the soul behind the eyes. Are they congruent? Are they being authentic? Are they being genuine? And the majority of people are good people. They want to live lives and raise children that are good citizens in the world. The majority of people are much like you and I. And everyone will also have flaws. And you know, a little diamond on my ring, my finger here. Every diamond has flaws. Every diamond in the world has flaws. That's how we know it's a diamond. The only perfect diamond is a synthetic one. So you know, we give the compliments. You know, sometimes in the West we can be quick to complain.
Yeah.
Quick to praise, you know, complete this meal, this service, and so on. But what about you've been? What a wonderful person you've been, and made the night at this restaurant an absolute pleasure. Will you tell the chef how gorgeous the vegetarian dish or whatever it is, to give compliments? You can be. I'm going to say I encourage people to be secret agents of change, because plant beautiful seeds in hearts and minds genuinely. You won't have to look far until you see something that pleases your heart and soul. But then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone genuinely from your heart. And you can plant many seeds that will bloom and grow. And one kindness creates a cascade of kindnesses across the world. One of my friends who's just gone to South Africa, I think it was about 2 days ago, who I love dearly. I call him, it's Hugh, and I call him Hugh. And he goes, I really must learn to tell people I love them, because I'll always put at the end of a message, love you or love ya.
Yeah.
And anyways, he started to do that, not just to me and to others, but to lots of people and colleagues. Love you. And he's a loving person, genuinely from his heart. So sometimes our giving of compliments and genuinely saying, I love you, it helps other people to do it too.
Yeah, Georgina always says, you know, kill them with kindness. And it really works, you know, like if you express that and you show some love and goodwill, that's powerful, you know, because it shows that you come from a good corner. And that brings us to the other topic, no? Intention, Kathryn, no? Like, but before we come to that, maybe we do a little interlude. Don't you think, Kathryn, that happiness has a lot to do also with your inner child and humor? That's one topic which is not covered a lot. Maybe we can talk a bit about this, Kathryn. And actually, in the last podcast, Thomas was mentioning that for a minute, that the universe has quite a sense of humor, you know, and we should be open to that. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously, Kathryn. Even sometimes in dramatic moments, there can be a bit of irony, isn't it?
Absolutely, and we have to be able to laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
And do you know what? When I pass out of this world and into the next, or into the next life, however it goes, I want to be remembered with laughter, and I would like to be remembered with love, because I've done some daft things in my time. And I often think as well, Jamal, when things go wrong, you can laugh about them for years to come. When they go, they're forgotten about, aren't they? There's nothing memorable in them. But sometimes there are disasters in life, not death kind of disasters in life, but just things go catastrophically wrong. Hysterical, laughing about them. And actually, even in dark times, in difficult times, have a lot of laughter as well. So in this room that I'm sitting in now, 2 people I love have died in this room. But there is not sadness in this room, and there's not sadness in this house. There's a lot of love, and there's a lot of serenity in this house. But just over here, just behind me here, my mother died in 2013, and just over to my right, our lovely Ed died. Both of them in hospital beds that we brought in so that we could nurse them at home. But you know, there was laughter at times, and more, I have to say, for my mom, who died at 82. So there's a right order to that. Our beautiful Ed was 35 years old, too young. So there was a lot of sadness associated with that. But I'll make you giggle with my mother.
They're watching us right now, if you ask me, Kathryn. They're watching us right now, you know?
For sure. My mother had been dying. We thought it was her last day, Friday. She didn't die. We thought it was her last day, Saturday. She didn't die. She was like Gladiator, the film Gladiator. She was Maximus Meridius, leader of the Roman Empire. She was a proper gladiator. Sunday came and went. We thought that was the last day. She never died. Monday came and went. She never died. Tuesday, and we're all gathered round for what, again, we thought was going to be the last day. And it went all the way through the day. And at about 7:20 at night, and we're all a bit tired by this time. We'd been up night shifts and all of that. In case she passed, we didn't want her to be on her own. And my sister, you can only say this if you love somebody, can't you? So my sister was there, my 3 daughters were there, and our friend Louise was there. And my sister said, "Mother, if you aren't dead in 5 minutes, that pillow's gone over your head." Because we loved and adored my mother. My little mother was dead within 2 minutes of that, but I know she would have had a giggle, and I know most of her spirit was out of her body. The next funny thing that happened was my beautiful mother, and she was lovely, she had false teeth in her older age, and she died without her teeth in, and I went, "Get those teeth in that mouth, because she'll haunt us if we don't make her look pretty when she's died." We put the teeth in, Jamal. She looked like a horse. Shergar the horse meets Freddie Mercury from Queen. They were not, "Get them out again, she'll haunt us, shut her mouth," and we'll go. Death is sometimes funny also. And another funny thing I said to my mother before she'd gone unconscious was, I went, "Mother?" And she went, "What?" I said, "You're going to meet Elvis before I do." And we held. I says, "Tell him to be at the end of that tunnel when I come through, or there'll be trouble in heaven that day." And we laughed and we laughed and we laughed. But there's so many silly things that's happened in my life.
That's, Kathryn, I find that beautiful. And for the viewers who want to get more into that topic, there's a great book by Ramdas, Polishing the Mirror, one of the last ones he wrote. And there's a big part about that in the end. And, he has actually been with a lot of people during the last minutes. And he said what you described right now. He said, all I had to do was to be authentic. I didn't want to lie to them, because that's what happens a lot, no? When there is the person on the bed and the family around it and everybody says, "Oh, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine." He said, no, don't lie. Be authentic, and you can laugh and you can assure. He describes the situation, which reminded me of what you described now, Kathryn, where he said he was with his mother and the mother was asking him, after days of everybody saying it's going to be fine, she asked him, "I'm going to die, am I?" And he said, "Yes, Mom, you will die." And he said it was one of the most beautiful moments to be there together, to just live in that moment, and to have like this authentic, genuine time together. So that's very, very important. And yeah, I think this book, I wasn't aware of all this, Kathryn, to be honest. But, you reminded me with that story about that book where he goes really into depth about that. And yeah, look, if I die, Kathryn, please, on my funeral, I want a party. I don't want anyone to cry. I'm honest, really, Kathryn, I want a party.
A celebration of our lives and the who of who we are, and to be remembered with gladness, not sadness. That the frequency I want to leave behind in hearts and minds of my children, of my beautiful, beloved grandchildren, of my sister and so on, is the energy of love and the energy of laughter, because we've had a lot of both in our lives. Yeah. So it would be a true honouring of somebody to remember them in the frequency, in the energy with which they lived.
Exactly.
That's what we all want, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. So of course, the hard times can be acknowledged, but one should really acknowledge what the person was about, And in my case, please laugh as much as you want. And really, Kathryn, just to close that part of that topic, and obviously you can't ignore the whole death discussion, because that's a fundamental fear of many people, right? Especially in those times. We'll come to that in a minute. But I really encourage everybody on their own path. Make your peace with death, like in your physical form, you have limited time. It's absolutely fine. Now let's talk, Kathryn. What do we do in this limited time? How do we live our life? There's this beautiful lecture where you on YouTube where you say making your life the message, right? I really like that expression. And there you talk a lot about really about how to live your life in the end, isn't it? No, your mindset, your attitude. And you did it beautifully. To our viewers, what is there maybe anything, Kathryn, people always ask, can you give me a little technique or a little nugget? Does anything come to your mind, like maybe a gratitude practice in the morning? Or?
Well, there's many tools and techniques, but I want to share one thing, and it kind of pulls a lot of today together, a lot of our discussion, and it is, You know, we can be frightened of our feelings, but actually your feelings are a compass to guide you. And think of your feelings as being a compass to guide you, because there are times in your life when you're around certain people that your energy, so like that big spirit, your energy comes in and you're filled with energy. Notice those times. Notice those people. There are times when you're learning something and it's like you come to life. In the energy comes. This is your compass to guide you forward. Listen to the big energy moments. Notice them, give witness to them, and think, is there something in this, you know, when I'm painting or when I'm writing or when I'm reading or when I'm doing history or geography or science? Where's the big energy? That would be the best careers guidance, wouldn't it? To follow your energy, to follow the big energy, and to notice what you notice about that. And also, even in times of difficulties, to notice that your energy is within your control generally. And even when your energy goes down, say, what was I thinking about then? What was, you know, where were my thoughts that rose that feeling into me or dropped that feeling in? And notice those things as well, so that you become, you know, we all come with a brain and no user's manual. So to notice your energy system is your compass to guide you. And the big energy can be almost like a North Star to guide you forward for sure. In terms of a tool or a technique, the easiest to learn is EFT, the Emotional Freedom Technique. And it involves acupressure points of light. I want you to think of them as being points of electrical energy, just as your heart, you know, if it stops, they would start it with electricity, but you have electrical wiring. And where the Chinese 5,000 years ago said you had these acupoints, indeed you do. We have, in fact, I had one in here, a little medical instrument that is an acupoint finder, and it screams at the points at which the Chinese showed us that we had acupressure points. There's many films on YouTube about it. I've got one on my YouTube channel showing people how to use EFT to get rid of fear, because 2020 has been a fear-filled year for a lot of people. So EFT.
What's the name of your YouTube channel, Kathryn?
The YouTube channel is Kath Temple. And there's also one for the Happiness Foundation as well. So there's a couple of YouTube channels out there.
You can send me later and I can post the links in the description, huh?
Sure, absolutely. And it's a fledgling channel, so I would just absolutely love it if people would go over and subscribe. There's some meditations on there that would really be helpful to a lot of people as well. Absolutely gorgeous, but you can easily learn EFT. Find my video, you'll find out where the acupoints are, and you can release energy so that we're not accumulating emotional baggage on a daily basis. Every day, clear your energy system, even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes. You know, as you tap the acupressure points, you reduce cortisol. Harvard research found that EFT, the stimulation of the acupoints, would soothe the amygdala, which is involved in your survival mechanism, your fight, flight, freeze response, and it would reduce cortisol in your system, the stress hormone, by 24%. By 24%, very powerful. So EFT is easy peasy lemon squeezy. I love it. Another technique that I love, and if you did it for 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute before you went to sleep, you can do it for longer, but a minimum of a minute. And it's called havening. And havening involves just crossing your arms here and putting each hand on your shoulder. There are parts of your body that produce a lot of serotonin, which is the happy hormone. And havening is one of them. You produce a lot of serotonin and you produce oxytocin because it is psychosensory therapy, as is EFT. It involves touch. And you bring your hands down. If I just adjust the camera a little, all the way down your arms and across your palms. And in your mind in the morning as you do that, say in your mind, hopeful.
Wow.
Hopeful. And begin to think about what you're hopeful for that day, so that you set your intentions to live a good day as your best self. Hopeful, hopeful. Now, havening releases serotonin and oxytocin, but it also puts your brain into 0.5 of a delta wave. Delta is the slow wave healing sleep, but you can have delta when you're even awake, that is healing. It's where the cells repair themselves. Nights to do the same, but with a different word. At night to do grateful, grateful, grateful for at least 1 minute, maybe a couple of minutes, and to go through the blessings of your day, the things that you're grateful for, the things that you're grateful for in yourself, and to celebrate you too, as well as the people in your life that are blessings, the things in your life that are blessings, perhaps the work you do that is a blessing, the world that we live in that can be a blessing. So it depends on our focus, doesn't it? And it helps us to focus our minds. And not only that, it will soothe your mind.
Wow, that's beautiful, Kathryn.
Delta for sleep.
Beautiful, beautiful. The other day, Kathryn, I saw a very, very, very good podcast, and they were I think it was Aubrey Marcos, and they were discussing archetypes, right? It's a bit of a footnote here, but I wanted to bring this in here because it made me think of that. And specifically they were talking about this magician archetype every one of us has, no? And they said you can't think like that. You have to be careful what you say, what you think, because everything you say, everything you think is like a spell. In a way, and as you know better than me, Joe Dispenza has also worked a lot about these things that, like there's a quantum field and material things reside from the quantum field. So if you work on the quantum field, you can actually influence these things in your everyday life. No, that reminds me a bit of because that's how important it is to have the right mindset in the morning, in the evening, during the day, to be grateful, to have a positive attitude, to have a little smile for the universe. No, that makes a huge difference, no?
The same forces governing the cosmos govern us. We are electromagnetic beings living upon an electromagnetic earth within an electromagnetic universe. So we're drivers of the matrix. Yeah, we're at least co-creators of the matrix. And the vibration that we set off through our thoughts, through the feelings that encode in our being, can set off a chain of events. And we can attract back what it is that we send out in terms of that vibration. So I like all of that stuff. I worked for 10 years in British Nuclear. So I love the physics and I love the quantum physics, as well as the psychology, as well as the spirituality, as well. Very, very.
It's great, Kathryn, that these days we start to have also a bit of scientific evidence. No, I find it fantastic that doctors and researchers, they have the courage to actually do those studies and to give us a bit of scientific evidence, no? And that's what he, for example, does. And that's fantastic because, unfortunately, many things, Kathryn, we know them, but then some skeptic people say, well, where's the scientific evidence? And obviously, in some areas, Kathryn, you can't expect to have scientific evidence. You have to make peace with that as well. What, you want to close the door and not ignore these important things for life just because you can't see the black and white numbers on a paper? Come on, you know what I mean? I always think, Kathryn, you feel what's right and what's not right. And I think a good part of your work really fills that gap as well, Kathryn, no? Because you're able to teach methods, you're able to give also scientific applications, you're able to also come really from the spiritual direction, even if it's far out. No, so basically, I can imagine, Kathryn, tell me, when you talk to someone, or even if you treat someone, I'm sure, Kathryn, that you always adjust, you have to adjust. No, you think, okay, or you do it intuitively. You're like, okay, I can reach that person best when I come from this angle now, is it?
We adjust our language. My approach is to adjust my language to the style of the other person. If I'm working with a 7-year-old, it might be different language to the language I would use with a 27-year-old. If I'm working with a scientist, it might be a different language to if I'm working with a rabbi, or if I'm working with a pastor. It would just be different language. And I feel very comfortable in the world of science. I love science, but also in the world of spirituality. I love working with children and bringing magic in. Magic is the art of transformation and change. Magic is the art of transformation and change. And in Aramaic, we were talking about Jesus before, which was Jesus's language. The word abracadabra means I create as I speak. I create as I speak. So we can cast good spells with our compliments, with our I love yous and so on. We can also cast not so good spells with our words as well. But we can also adjust our words to the person that we're with, which is an honouring of them, so that we find the windows of opportunity in, so that we can influence them in a way that is ethical and in a way that is good. So whatever, whether it is maybe a skeptical accountant or a skeptical business leader, whatever, we'll lead them in through the science and take them into the avenues and pathways they know, and we can take them through the known, that they're more willing to then go into the unknown. And I love it when there's evidence for things, and I love it when we don't have an explanation.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we come to a place in our minds that we don't know. And I think that's a really exciting place as well. We haven't got an explanation for absolutely everything, and that's okay.
I fully agree, Kathryn. Recently I really learned that, that because look, your ego always wants to have control. The truth is, Kathryn, sometimes you have to trust, and let's be honest. I mean, in life in general, you have to trust the universe. I mean, there's no other way. Do you want to limit yourself? And look, in my day job, for example, Kathryn, I mostly do analytical things, statistical things, mathematical things, right? But that doesn't mean that I should limit my whole thinking in this little box, right? If you want to have a rich life, and if you want to expand your consciousness, that's what it's all about.
Expansiveness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is expanding your mind, of moving into the enlightened energies, being able to travel. You can go through all of the frequencies of emotion. They're all at a different frequency. They all have a different harmony, if you like. Some energies are in discord, and we can take people as we go into alignment into the higher frequencies, into the harmonious frequencies. Just thinking about that, the acupressure points, this is kind of a percussion on the energy system, and the meridians are like the Earth's ley lines. It's like we have our own song lines, and those song lines can become blocked. We're talking about blockages before. Yeah. EFT is a bit of percussion to change the harmonies, the inner harmonies, the inner harmonics of our being, and the Earth, and so on. In fact, I'll make you smile, Jamal, as well. Glastonbury, a place I really enjoy, has two big ley lines that go in opposite directions up the main street. One is the St. Michael line, and one is the St. Mary line. The Druids knew all about that. And it's our young generations that have forgotten some of this stuff. But the St. Michael line runs from Glastonbury through Stonehenge. From Stonehenge all the way across England to Bury St. Edmunds, which is in this county that I live in Suffolk. I live at Britain's most easterly point. The east, they say, is the place of illumination. And that St. Michael's line goes out the fields in front of my house. I think that's why it has the serenity energy. And out at Hopton, across through the Great Pyramid at Giza, and over through the Great Wall of China as well. So those are the Earth's ley lines. Those are the Earth's song lines. Tesla found a way of generating free electricity using those song lines and where they crossed, recognizing that the obelisks on the Earth traditionally were almost like acupuncture needles in Earth's energy systems. We still, and the Tesla's work still suppressed, they took it all away. It's come back into prominence, of course, with Elon Musk and so on. And when Einstein was asked, what's it like, Professor Einstein, to be the cleverest man on the planet? And he said, I don't know. You'll have to ask Nikola Tesla. I know.
Kathryn, that's so interesting. I love that stuff. That's super interesting, But as you know, and I think we have talked about that before, Kathryn, that's a positive aspect. Now, obviously, we can't ignore the fact that this kind of spiritual knowledge or secret knowledge or occult knowledge is also abused by certain groups of people around the world. No, just today, Kathryn, I was reading this article. They found those obelisks in different places, like little ones. And I didn't really look into it in detail, but I had a feeling like, oh, there's something going on, like which somebody understands who shouldn't understand it. You know what I mean? So what's your take on that? I've seen also lately, Kathryn, and I really appreciate it, that you're posting like more, well, people would say conspiracy-minded things, right? But I love that because not many people have the balls to do that, right? And also, I always love to post these things. It doesn't mean that I believe all that, but it just means look at this, right? I mean, just take a look at this. Maybe we should also discuss that point, no? How do we live in this world, especially now, Kathryn, with all this COVID madness going on? How do we live in this world where we see that there are obviously, let's say, groups who may not have the best intent, but have a lot of control over us as a collective. How do we deal with that?
I believe truth resonates. Truth resonates. Stop. Stop. Listen. Look. Do your research. Don't just accept things that are told to you. Do they feel right? Do they resonate with you? Truth will resonate deeply. And much truth in life across the eons has been suppressed. Why do the pyramids speak out, shout out the dimensions of our planet, when at the time they were meant to be built, we didn't even know we lived on a planet, supposedly? So history is his story. Who's going to tell the history of these times? 2020 is the most extraordinary time of all of our lives, because a virus with a 99.97% survival rate has supposedly caused the crash of the world's economies, none more so than the UK, where I'm living, where human beings have been disconnected from other humans, including the ones in their families. We are social beings, and social isolation is a form of torture much loved by dictators. Any government that separates families, supposedly for their own good, is not got the best interests of its people. When people are dying alone without their loved ones, this is not right. It is not right. And so look at the stats. Someone said everybody's a statistician these days. Well, you know, I have an MSc, and part of that MSc was in statistics. So I can look at the ONS figures. I can see where, the hospital admissions and so on, and whether they're up or whether they're down, and the death rates of whether they're up or whether they're down, and what they are in different years. So I have found that our media, big tech media, and pharmaceutical industry are in collusion. That's my take on it. I may be wrong. I'm open to being wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, because this pause year of 2020, I have had time, and a lot of other people have had time too, to do their research and to look for the truth value of things.
You know, Kathryn, I hope that in 5 years we're sitting together and we laugh about all this. But to be honest with you, I'm not so sure right now. And maybe it's also important to understand the wrong response to all this madness, Kathryn, is to have fear, no, and to get out of it. Look, we have to do the other thing, isn't it, Kathryn? We have to actually do what we talked about today. Live mindfully, live out of love, and not fall for those low frequency vibrations. We can't fall into the trap.
Mm-hmm. It's really because there are two schools of thought on the planet at the moment, aren't there?
Yeah.
One is that there's a dreadful plague almost going on, and that stop, mask up, socially distance, don't go and see anybody, stay indoors, keep people alive, which, a massive fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear lowers your vibration, lowers your immunity by up to 40%. Fear is really crippling. It's acid, it's full of acid, cortisol. Yeah. The fear, the stress hormone, is full of acid. It is pro-cancer, pro-diabetes, pro-arthritis, pro-aging, inflammatory, not good stuff at all. But the other school of thought is people who are skeptical of, the science. I'm a scientist. There's science and there's science. Whose science are we listening to? Are they independent? Are they independent, or are they in the pay of somebody or some organization? What's going on there? But also they are running a fear scenario in their heads as well, of totalitarianism and of suppression and genocide and so on. And so, if there is a ruling force in this, then they've divided people very well. They've created fear in both groups. So they must be laughing if there is. Some.
But that's always a strategy, isn't it, Kathryn? Divide and conquer, no? That people fight among themselves, and all we can do is doing the opposite, no? Don't fight other people. Don't look for.
To bring love in, to bring compassion in, to recognize that people, when they're in fear, are very easy to control. People in fear are easy to control. People in fear will not stay well. And so to go into those higher energies of love, understanding, compassion, and peace, never more than this year was meditation more needed. Meditation is more powerful than medication. Play your music, shake off the shackles of the low energies and play music that rejuvenates your spirit and your soul. Conjoin with others. If you're a rule follower, then please do what we're doing. Connect in with images so that we can see our loved ones, those that we care about. Human beings need other human beings. Stay hopeful. Don't stay in the low frequency of problems. Keep looking for solutions. Keep looking for ways forward. Keep looking for the freedoms in the limitations that are being imposed across the world. Keep looking forward and keep your energy high. In such ways, we raise the vibration of the planet. And I think there are many timelines that operate, and we can go down a disaster pathway, or we can keep igniting the higher pathway within ourselves as well as within our world. We are more powerful than we know. We are powerful, and we're powerful when we act collectively, even in our own homes, lifting our vibration. There is collective energy sent out across the world.
But you know, Kathryn, I'm actually optimistic because of what you just said. I feel, Kathryn, I don't know what your experience is, but for me recently, Kathryn, I feel that as crazy as 2020 was and as crazy as the current events are, for some people, it has been a wake-up call, Kathryn. Some people, you know, like some people you would never expect, they suddenly are open to spirituality. They suddenly, you know, like look into themselves. They suddenly realize, okay, something weird is going on. I need to look into it. So, you know, like the one thing which confuses people is you see those both developments at the same time. On the one hand, you see like, you know, how people just, you know, believe what they are told. But then you see people really waking up and questioning. And personally, Kathryn, I believe this is an exciting time. And Kathryn, there's a reason why, for example, you are alive now, why you are doing the work you're doing now. There's a reason, Kathryn, you know, the universe has wants it that way because we all may, you know, need to play our little roles in the big plan, right? And I think what you said is very important, especially now, where everybody's talking about these events all day. Exactly. No, I would like to reinforce it. Don't, you know, get into this fear trap. You know, don't let yourself drag down. Look, you know, take the life as a dance it is, right? Accept what's happening, which you can't control, but what you can influence, try to influence. Make sure that yourself, your family, your friends are not dragged down by those events. You know, like make sure that you really stay up there and you think positive and you don't lose your trust in love. But and that's apparently a big topic right now, isn't it, Kathryn? That's why your work is more needed than ever.
And I also think we've all everybody that's on this planet has chosen to come in at this time, for these times, for these extraordinary times, so that we learn the lessons from the past. We're not going back to Nazi Germany, that we're not going back to conformity, to totalitarianism in any way, so that we're learning those lessons and we're in recognition of this is the pause year that takes us into our own personal ascension, if you like, and that takes this planet on the ascension route where things that have long been waiting to be exposed are going to be exposed. It might be a rocky road in 2020 and in 2021, but I believe that more people are awakened upon this planet because of the events of 2020. More people are arising in their spirituality in recognition of the fact that we're living chalices. We are living channels of light, and that we can influence things far more than we're aware of. And to stay awake, stay up in the light and add your higher frequency. Make it your daily purpose to lift your frequency and to use your gifts, skills and talents in a way that serves humanity, in a way that serves our world. These are extraordinary times.
Wow, that was beautiful, Kathryn, for sure. Look, we have to do another podcast in the future, Kathryn. I didn't even get to half of the topics I've written down. But the thing is, you always have so valuable comments to make, you know, that, yeah, I mean, this is, I think, especially now, this is super important and, yeah, fantastic. I mean, please make sure to check out Kathryn's work and, Yeah, and it's fantastic, Kathryn, that you do so many things at the same time. Also with the foundations and all that. That's really, great. You work on so many levels,
Mhm.
and
I do. I love what I do. I'm too old to do anything that I don't love. My So I only want to give it to things I believe in, to causes that I love. Another little plug, I'm a director of a charity in Gibraltar called Help Me Learn Africa, where we bring education to the children in Ghana, and hopefully further beyond that as well. Our wonderful CEO is Louise Barea, an absolute
yeah.
human. I love her. I'm very proud of all of the work that she's doing. She's a, mighty woman. She's a mighty, mighty woman. I love her. Very, very important. And yeah, my training company is lifelonglearningcompany.com. In Gibraltar, it's Temple of Success. And of course, my charitable work is the Happiness Foundation. And we've changed tens of thousands of lives, and that's massively important to me. Helping people to live life as their best self, doing what they were born to do and bringing their gifts, skills, and talents on their own purpose, living their own mission is really important. And being their best selves at home as well, not saving everything just for work, but also their children matter, their partner matters, their friendship circles matters. Everything is sacred in its own way. And that's vitally important to me too.
Yeah. Kathryn, I would like to know, because we come towards the end, for you personally, right? I mean, you had in your life, you had so much exposure to all different kinds of practices and techniques and belief systems. So for you personally, what's your own next step in your own development, if I may ask?
It's to train and change more change agents. So to create more agents of change in our world, so that I think that's my legacy. My legacy is my children and my grandchildren, of course, but my legacy is also to create change agents. So to help people be skilled, to be wisely using wonderful change techniques ethically with people, so that we ignite sparks and lights across the world, really. That's very important to me. And actually 2020 has brought an opportunity that people don't have to just be in one geography of Gibraltar where I work, or in the United Kingdom where I work. That actually, I'm working with wonderful psychiatrists and clinical psychologists in India, with wonderful doctors and naturopaths in Australia, with people in America and Canada. So the geography, the borders, we're borderless here, in the possibilities that working online has made. And yes, it's wonderful to be with someone and feel their energy, for sure it is. But at 62 now, I'm committing a lot more of my work to online, to YouTube, to creating online training programs, because over the course of my lifetime, I have learned a great deal. I've sought out great teachers for my work to shape me, to influence me. But then we have our own take on things, our own learning journey, where we can synthesize and integrate a variety of tools and techniques, ways of being. And that's really important to me. So may the change agents come, may they all come. May they come, may they come, may they come and share the wisdom right across the world. That is my legacy. And so my dream, as I've gotten older, has become bigger, not smaller. And it's still expanding and growing. And that's important too, that at every age and stage of our lives, there's a new dream to live into. One of my favorite films, Field of Dreams.
And then now we come full circle, no? Because talking about happiness, it's not only about your own happiness, it's actually also about happiness of others, isn't it? You talked a lot about this in a lecture you did, I think, and I think that's also one important point, no? Like it's not about like I'm fine, my wife is fine, that's it. No, like there's more. And for example, looking at you and your path, now you try to also help others on their path, no, to yeah, you call them your children also, no, like your kids. That's, I think that's really important, no, like that you kind of spread the word that way, right? Because together we're stronger than just being one single person, isn't it?
For sure. And, there's some C's that are important in life: contribution, connection, community, to bring back a sense of control into our lives so that we're purposefully using our lives and our gifts, skills, and talents. Those things are really important. And another C is compassion. To meet each person with compassion as much as you can muster. Compassion is a form of love, just as kindness is a form of love as well. And again, to help people feel warmed by each of our presences is
And not to judge so much, no? We all judge a lot. That's also not good, isn't it? Judging others.
Not good. To be as accepted and try and have some understanding. We haven't walked in other people's shoes. Yeah, walk a mile in my moccasins was the Native American Indian of we haven't lived their lives. We have no idea of the pain and suffering that they've been through, or the limitations that they've faced in their lives. And so look, for the eagle within somebody, look for the spirit behind their eyes, look for common ground. There is much more common ground, much more that unites us than divides us. And keep the compassion in your heart. That's really important, I believe. And it spreads the love.
Yeah, we have to protect our oneness, isn't it? No, we can't fall into the separation trap. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn. I really loved that, but there's so much more I would love to discuss with you. You have to promise me, Kathryn, that in the future we do a really nice podcast, maybe on what we just briefly discussed, like the ancient wisdom and the crazy stuff. I would love that.
I have loved it, and thank you for inviting me to make this podcast with you. I've loved it, Jamal. You're a very special person with a wonderful energy, one of the charismatics, and you're using your gifts, skills, and talents to make a difference in our world, and I salute you.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thanks for your time. It's always fascinating to talk to you, and I think, again, we all learned a lot. And please, in the future, come back. Doesn't need to be in the next weeks or month, but at some point. And please, everybody, make sure to check out her work. I will put her links in the description. Please support it. Okay, no matter in which way you want to support it, please consider it. It's important. We all have to work together. And yeah, what can I say, Kathryn? Inspiring, and would love to really do it more in the future. And I think this is really it, what we see here, that we exchange ideas, that we can get this really important knowledge which is not covered in any mainstream media, that we can sit here face to face and really go deep. That's what it's all about. For me, that's really, Kathryn, increasing the collective consciousness. And look, no matter what happens outside, like you say, we have the technology, we can do it now. People have the choice. You can watch it or you cannot watch it. As I said before, I don't care about any views. We will keep things long. It doesn't matter. We don't just scratch on the surface. And we didn't cover all topics, but that's absolutely fine. I think for tonight, we all, had a very nice input from Kathryn. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Stay safe, my dear. All the love in the world to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.